Why do you keep lying and scared of telling the truth?
And what you allow to come in your mind controls your fucking heart. A man's word right now doesn't mean shit. Imagine if you just have that in your life. You have the truth and you have honor. That everything that comes out of your fucking mouth, you do it. That you do the shit that you said you're gonna do.
Hello, welcome back to the Warrior Week podcast. I am Coach Max. This is our coach, Coach Sam. How are you doing today, Coach?
Hey, thank you, man. How are you?
Very good. Today, Coach, I wanted to talk about specifically how men are scared of telling the truth. And even if they know it or they're telling it, they don't know what telling the truth is. And inside there, the true willingness to go and investigate what is the truth. And when men do this specifically, they find themselves in this like pit or pain or hurt where they're scared of wanting to go and investigate the truth of fucking up their body, the truth of fucking up their relationships, the truth of fucking up their business, the truth of fucking up their connection to God. And that's a fucking painful realization that, oh, fuck, I got a lot here that I'm not willing to investigate to know what that truth is. And so my question to you is, why is it that men are scared of the fucking truth?
The question itself is the answer. What I mean by that is, if one investigates by just asking himself, then what is the truth? We quickly recognize that there's a distinction between the truth and the ability to be honest, to be vulnerable, and the motivating reason why we are honest and vulnerable. So you are only telling the truth if there is no motivating or encouragement or selfish reason for why you are telling the truth. If you're honest and there's a motive behind it that serves you to be honest, then you're not honest. If you are being vulnerable and there's a motive behind it, that may seem that there's no gain in it. And we'll talk about specifically about that. What do I mean by that? But at the surface, it has the appearance that there is no gain. There's no personal gain for it. But behind the scene, there is gain from it. We can give examples when related to guilt. When a man feels guilty and chooses to be honest and chooses to be vulnerable, is it really for the sole purpose of actually being in integrity and truthful that he's telling, or he decides to tell the truth, or he becomes vulnerable about that subject? Or is it because he simply wants to get rid of the guilt? That the pressure of the guilt is so high that although telling the truth, let's say you stole some money, right? And you come clean, that's the language that is used. You come clean and you say, hey man, I want to tell you the truth. I want to be honest. I want to be vulnerable. I stole some money. I took some money that wasn't mine. And man, this has been sitting on my heart, and I've been feeling guilty about it. Well, in that moment, what is happening? Why are you telling the truth? Well, you're obviously telling the truth because you feel so guilty about it, because there's a personal gain, which is to get rid of the guilt because you can't, right? It's just too much. And then if you look at it and say, well, I don't really have any personal gain because, man, if I tell this guy that I stole the money, I have everything to lose. He's my boss, or he's this person to me. Like, I have everything to lose inside of this relationship. I don't understand. I'm being vulnerable. I'm being honest. I'm taking a massive risk here of losing this relationship by being honest. And at the same time, I can't because I feel super guilty about it. So that confusion takes place, which tells nothing about your character, but an action that you're taking at a point of time, which is, hey, man, I want to tell the truth. So what this tells us is periodically telling the truth for a selfish reason, whether it's apparent or not, is not telling the truth, is manipulating the concept of telling the truth in order to get what you want, which is less less guilt, and more that you can obtain from being truthful. And we all do that. This is installed in our ecosystem as men and as the way we operate. We adopted this from very early ages, from our environment, culture, parents, and we moved on for it. Whether you had an amazing, honest father that brought you up, or there was an absence of a father in your life, either way, we have all inherited this way, because even the amazing, honest father had this way inside of him. And there is, so you say, well, what is the solution to that? The solution to that is what we call, I mean, in the church, they call that a progressive sanctification, which is we work daily towards cleaning the mess. We work daily towards cleaning the mess. And now that we talk about theology, like when it comes to telling the truth, there is no way to escape theology. You have to talk about God. Or else we're just talking about a version of the truth that everybody has painted as the truth, but by itself is a fucking lie. So I'm not going to even bother getting into that category. That's any philosophy, any psychology, anything that does not involve God, there could be no conversation about the truth, period. And other shows and other peoples, they can choose to paint the truth without God, but it's false by itself, period. But so every time we talk about the truth, theology is in place. The world does not teach you how to be a godly man. The word teaches you constantly to be an atheist, because we are by nature a reflection of God as a person. We are by nature a reflection of God's attribute. That's who we are by nature. And so we don't need to learn or know God, because we know of God by being created. What the world is constantly teaching you is how to not believe in God and how to be an atheist. That's a learning that takes place. There is no learning about theism, because God is already inside of you as a reflection of his image, of his person. So as we talk about that as being the center of what the truth is, then we talked about this concept of progressive sanctification, which is day by day we clean the house. Day by day we have to take the garbage out. Day by day you have to take the stone in your shoes. Imagine you're walking towards a destination and you have a shoes in your stone. Well, at one point, man, you stop and you shake the shoe and you get rid of the stone, so you don't experience the pain of walking with this stone. Now, did I do that so that I selfishly don't have pain in my feet? Yes, that's a human nature. But at the same time, I do it every time when I feel a stone in my shoes. And that's progressive sanctification, which is whenever you do something fucked up, whenever you lie, you know of it. The minute you become aware of it, there is the chance for you to shake your shoes and get rid of the stone. And what we do is that we live with the story that, hey, no problem, I got this, right? I can walk with the pain inside of my shoes. So, and some may come and say, hey, well, look, man, if we are saved, right? Why do we need to, if all our sins is paid for, why do we need to keep, repenting? We need to ask for forgiveness or get rid of the shoes. Well, it's very, very simple. In the eternal life, we are forgiven. If you're in Christ, in the eternal life, you're forgiven for all your sin. That means no longer God is this character of a judge. You don't deal with God as a judge. In the parental format, You keep getting rid of the stone in that parental relationship. Now God is there as a father. Now God is there as a personal relationship. And that's the distinguish between, having God as a judge in your life or having God as saved. You're saved in eternity. But hey, meanwhile, you're here, bro. You got a dad, right? And when you got a dad, like, he's kind of there to help you out. And you're kind of there to open up with him and have this relationship. It always comes down to a father and son relationship down here for us, which sets us a great example, right? How would I raise my children if I would be the judge constantly upon their head versus I get to be the dad that keeps forgiving my son. And I want my son to tell me whenever he has a shoe in his stone. I want to know right away, bro. Tell me right away. Tell me right away. Tell me that this thing is hurting you. And you'll hear the same thing. Take your shoes, shake it up, put it back on. Oh, man, it works.
Yeah,
it doesn't. I don't feel the pain anymore.
I think, you just sparked something in my head where I'm like, man, I see the parents, the men that come into the circles and come into Warrior Week, and yet they don't have this connection with their kids, specifically because of what you're saying. They constantly have fucking judgment on their kids. There is no open relationship of like, hey, I want to hear it. And that's the same kid that hides shit from you, doesn't tell the truth to their dad, doesn't say, hey, dad, you know what? I was drunk driving. And then doesn't have that open conversation, because what happens? The dad says, I'm going to take away your keys. You're not going to fucking drive anymore.
By the way, that is a for sure fucking thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I might take away the key.
I'm a fucking, no, not only I take away the key, I take away your room. I take away every single possession I have. I will fucking take it away for a period of time.
Yes. But you're teaching him how to drive without a rock in his fucking shit.
There we go.
And you're having that communication, and you're making sure. I know that my kids at 3 and 6 years old, I'm embedding right now that it's all about the truth.
Correct.
Even to the point where I'm like, hey, tell me the truth when you do that. And he's like, yeah, I kicked my brother. Okay, well, you guys have to play a part for a minute. And I want to get pissed.
Bingo, because you're teaching your kids consequences of lying. And by teaching consequences of lying, you're not painting the truth as some cheap item that you can find on a fucking, Mexican flea market. Literally, it's not that. You're not painting the truth as something false. But and it begins by the fundamental of teaching consequences. I said this before. If you don't do that as dads, then the world will not fucking hesitate to constantly paint something as the truth and sell it continuously to your children.
Yeah, it almost goes back to it when you said you were at the gas companies in the Soviet, or where it was, where
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan, where there was communism, and how they removed the God concept specifically for that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't know why I was sent there. Right. Today, I can look back and say, man, I was sent there to see that so I can share that. At the time, I think I was sent there to do an oil and gas project. But there was this moment where I still have the actual photo, although I didn't have a camera or anything to take a picture, but I can in details recall the picture of what I saw and how that was associated with the concept of not knowing God. I specifically remember I was in a car and we were driving through the street, and it wasn't a big aha moment, but it was an absolute picture that I can recall. All the buildings looked the same. Nothing was taller than 4 floors. Everything looked square. There was nothing edgy. There was no neons or any light around the stores. Everything looked the same. Nothing more, nothing less. And everybody walking in the street on a snowy day, and it wasn't a very busy street. It was, you could pick people one or two walking. Every single person that I looked at had their head down. It was a crazy image. It was something that you would perhaps see in the movies, but it was happening in real time. So I noticed that, and I didn't know how to put it all together. And then I found out later during that trip that, God, nobody knows God. Nobody knows of God. Nobody even knows what that is, because that was stripped away like 70, 80 years ago. And generation after generations, they grown without even the concept of God, without even the concept of questioning and wanting to know. And so I don't know more about how those people feel in depth. What I do know today is that when I put those two things together, is that that's an image of a life that most men live today in our society here in North America. They live that, and they claim that they know God.
Well, you can do the same thing with the concept of sin, right? So like once you're in sin, you're going to be a slavery to sin. And then the same thing with truth. If we go back to the truth of it, like once you start telling a lie, you're enslaved to the lie.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they're going through, I can't speak for them, but when you give me that image, I'm thinking, well, fuck, man, they're enslaved to the system.
Yep.
They're enslaved to it. And in turn, they're not being told the truth, or they're not even allowed to live outside of that. And that's what we do here.
Yep.
So much time. Like now, fuck, man, so many people are so scared to speak up,
Yep.
so scared to say what's on their fucking heart and on
Yep.
their mind.
Yep.
And me and you were like, well, fuck it. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, because we know that we're already enslaved in Eli, right? You and I come from generations of liar. Our dad is a liar. Our grandfather was a liar. His grandfather is a liar. Our children are liars. Their children will be liars. It is like the newborn baby of my son will be a liar. And I will be a liar accepting that, no, it's a baby. It's an angel. No. He's born as a liar. And that all comes back to knowing that for 100% for sure, not as some fundamental motherfucker that believes that, the world is going to burn down, but as somebody that actually went to the origin of creation and saw the masterpiece that was created and noticed the fall and noticed the God's beautiful plan for redemption. This is all part of Genesis. Like you discover all this in the early pages of the book of God. But everybody has a philosophy around it. Everybody wants that book to be some kind of technical book where the science of the science is explained. I give you an example. It's like, well, God talks about the creation of the light, right? Like you talk about sun and the moon, and some asshole will come today and say, well, the moon is not technically a light because, it's reflecting a light. And yet at the same time, the moon is 400 times less than the size of the earth and is 400 times less of the distance of the sun. Oh, it's some kind of mathematics in there that comes in. And now you have light at night. Well, you have to understand the genre. You have to understand the type of book the first book of creation was in order to even come at it and begin your understanding. See, there's an art and science of studying the word of God as it was spoken. Some people claim that, God spoke the word and the world created the world. They actually think physically God has spoken. And that's not the case at all, because and they believe because he's spoken physically that God is a physical being. That's fucked up, right? But they relate it to that. That's exactly the image that I'm trying to tell you, man. You got people that live exactly like people in Kazakhstan, which have no idea about that God exists. You have people walking with the Bible. You have people believing in God that live in the same situation than that, but they don't think so. And the idea is very simple. Have you ever been on a couch and you've been like, lazy and it's like, fuck, man, or the TV is so boring and there's some shit going on. And in your mind that you have to get up and move and go to, let's say to your bed or somewhere else. Well, you don't speak it, right? You don't speak, I will move. It's a decision that's been made in the mind and but first it's been spoken in your mind, right? And that definition is what took place when the word was created. So why am I like going all the way and talking about these things? Because without a fundamental understanding of the origins, then the truth becomes completely subjective in the audience that is talking about the truth. Everybody will paint it in way and trying to sell it to the next guy. It all begins with the origin, and it all begins with believing in the fact that everything was caused by something that had no cause, that God has no origin, that he stands outside of what was created, and we are all part of this funnel of creatures. And the definition of a creature is when it was created. If this does not become the center point of any conversation, then at that point, anything goes. Anything goes in any direction. So the truth all comes back to the point of origin and everything else that has been revealed for us to know. And as a man, you have a duty to know. You have a duty, but most men abandon the duty or taking somebody else's words and are running with it.
Yeah, that goes back to what you said about the subjective truth. It's real easy to take another man's word and then use that as, okay, well then that could be a truth. So I'm going to go ahead and allow it to be. Right. Whereas the truth doesn't need that. You know, in the heart of hearts what that is. The difference between fucking right or wrong. You don't need to be fucking explained it. The biggest truth that has been painted and it's been sold in some fucking Mexican flea market is the humanitarian truth. Yeah. Well, don't get me wrong. I like the Mexican flea market every once in a while.
Mexican or anything. It doesn't matter. But
I just want to make that clear. I like those tacos. So.
Yeah. I don't know about that. But anyway, so like literally, bro, that's what it is.
Yes.
That's what it is. It's being painted, the humanitarian truth, which is what you and I, when we feel this humanitarian love. Well, there is a very clear distinguish between humanitarian love and divine. And the conflict begins the minute you start pointing out the difference between humanitarian love and divine love. And now you're seen as some kind of fucking fundamental. You're seen as some kind of person that judges. And you see yourself as being a fucking beast also. And you need to cage yourself in it so that you understand this thing is all about acceptance and loving. That the minute we start separating and saying, oh, those people and these people, or we're better than this, or we're doing this differently, those people don't understand it, we're fucked. It doesn't mean that you're there to solve the problem of the world, but you are here to solve and to dissolve the conflicts of your own fucking world. And what most men don't want to do, they do not want to dissolve the conflicts of their own world, but they want to constantly solve the problem of the world by having a fucking opinion.
Well, and you just said it right there when you're talking about like God's love and humanity love. And when you think of actually what a person would come to you and tell you, hey, you know what, if there's a God, well, why is there still starving in the world? Yeah. And you have to tell them, well, God has given us the capability to make sure that we're all fed on earth. Period. It's there. The capability is there. The problem is humanity comes into play, and the humanity love takes that away. Right. That's the same thing.
Well, it's the fall. Yeah. If a person asks me that question, number one, I say, hey, bro, the only thing I can tell you as of right now is I encourage you to go read and find the answer in first read Genesis 1 and 2, and then figure out what happened in Genesis 3. Like literally figure out. And then from there, I encourage you to study that and figure out the answer. I am not going to put the answer on a silver platter and give it to you. Or if it's asked in a way to trying to extract my argument against, I'm not here to overwrite your argument, your opinion. Yeah. What I'm telling you is the truth that I speak about is understood. I don't have to fucking explain it. And it's not that I have some kind of ego or that I'm saying, hey, man, I'm a bully. No, I mean, don't blame me. I didn't say it. God said it. So if you have anything, take it with him. I'm just saying I believe in it.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy how easily somebody will take offense to that.
Yep.
And it's all you're saying is, no, I believe in this. Like what you talk about.
And we're talking about this because you asked the question about the truth.
Yeah.
But that's why I said the answer is within the question itself, because who is the audience? And if you and I are sitting here and we both agree on the point of the origin, and we both agree that God is not some fucking mascot that just let us be, and then he comes in and he closes the gap, right? You must have seen that, right? When shit goes to south, we go to God, and God closed the gap because we got it. We got it. We can do a lot of things. We got it. We can do a lot of fucking things, but when there is a gap, God come helps us. There was this joke I was telling you about where I think I told this before. I don't know if you were there or not, but basically there's a bunch of guys, right? At one point inside of the human advancement, right? And this paints beautifully the gap. They come to conclusion that, hey, bros, we don't need God anymore. So as a council, as a council of kings, as a council of the king of this world, the guys have figured it out, that have it all, that figure everything, and we don't need God anymore, man. So who's gonna go tell him that we don't need him? There was a moment of silence there to figure out who the fuck is gonna. But somebody, raise his hand and say, "Hey, man, I'll go." So okay, you go. And so this guy, makes an appointment and he goes. And not that you need an appointment. God, he's everywhere and anywhere. But anyway, according to them. And not that God has some kind of like secretary or somebody that's going to receive the call and orchestrate it. He was there. He heard you. Got it. You got the appointment. No problem. Right? Because he's there everywhere and anytime. And so he goes, well, God, we decided as a council of humans that we do no longer need you. And God is like, okay, I can see that. I can see that. Are you guys willing to accept the challenge for this? And he's like, okay. He goes, well, we're gonna make a challenge that you guys, as a council of humans, 7 billion, whatever, against me, will 4-time whoever builds this building from ground up. 4-time whoever builds this from ground up will win. Will win for time. So you guys accepting in this? The guy goes back and says, "Hey man, here's the challenge. Are we willing to accept this?" "Oh yeah, we got construction, we got engineering, we got equipment, we got tools, we got everything locked down. Yeah. Let's accept it. We're good to go, right?" And he says, "Okay, God, we'll accept the challenge. When do we start?" We said we can start, at this time, right? When the time comes, and these guys start literally they start going after it, right? They start the master plan. They took a week to put the plan together. They got this dialed down, right? When the time came down, they started putting it all together. Suddenly God shows up and says, "Hey, time out." He goes, "What's going on?" He goes, "Hey guys, get your own fucking dirt."
That's fucked up. That's fucked up.
So closing the gap, we forget the origin.
That's fucked up. That's fucked up. We forget quickly.
I mean, he blew into dust and Adam was there. And when he was there, Adam was complete. Adam was a finished product. So think about it, right? And often this is what God does. When he creates and when there is creative miracles, there is a complete product that is created. That product that is created, that thing that is created, has the appearance of age and history, but it has none. It has no age, it has no history. When God created Adam, there was no age and no history, but it has the appearance because, it probably has a level of glucose in it. And, Adam had some cortisol in him and he had, everything was complete. He had quads and his quads were attached to his hips. Everything was complete. And there are less than 100 creative miracles in the Bible, and most of them are happening with Jesus and the apostles, and all of them followed the same template. There's specifically 87 if you want creative miracles, and they all follow the same pattern, which is something is creative out of nothing with the appearance that has the age of the history, but it has none.
Fuck, that's tough. That's tough because then you want to justify it. It goes back to that subjective truth. Wow. It shows that there's something there. There is something there. And inside that, we keep going back to the gift of the truth, right? So the truth was given to us, yet we hide from it. Mm-hmm. We tend to shun it off. We push it off. And that goes back to even telling the truth, or like what you were saying was, fuck man, how do we, you get a guy that's right now, somebody's at home, he's on the couch and he knows hey, these guys are talking about something. This resonates with me, or it bothers the fuck out of you. I don't care. But either way, that there's truth in there. And then you start thinking about, okay, well, how do I start telling the truth every day? How do I truly fucking do this where I think I'm telling the truth, but I'm even lying to myself? Because you might tell the truth to other people, yet you tell yourself a lie. Okay, hey, today I'm going to work on my business, and you don't work on. And this is very small. And how that just compound interest, and how it just keeps growing and growing into a bigger lie.
So that's a very good point, because the answer from my existence up to this point and all the experiences that we have is you cannot continue to tell the truth alone. That we all can have these, as I described at the beginning of your question, we all can have these somehow frequent, spaced out moments where we tell the truth and we're honest, but we fall into the lies much more than this periodic telling the truth. And that's why there's an important thing called a fellowship, specifically for men. God said specifically in Genesis, it's not good for men to be alone. And obviously, he created a helper, Eve, to complete that side. But it says it's not good for man to be alone. This resonates true till now. This resonates true in the past 8 years of experiencing Warrior Week with 50,000 plus men that has come through this conversation of telling the truth. And you will ask every single person that has not stayed in fellowship had fallen to the lies. Now, because they have gone through it and because there's an experience, they always have a cross reference or a cross point that, yes, telling the truth matters, and telling the truth in association with other men that tells the truth, sustain telling the truth. There's sustainability in telling the truth. And so why am I telling you this? Because this podcast is not to fucking give you some general lecture about Bible or this podcast is really talking about why Warrior Week exists. I mean, literally, it's called Warrior Week Podcast. Yeah. So you may be a graduate of Warrior Week and you resonate with this, and this solidifies your path of moving forward as you listen to this, as you provide us some feedback, as we stay connected inside of this. Or you may be a brand new audience that came across this, and this message is a message that is driving you. But ultimately, the answer to your question is, how do I tell the truth continuously without falling? With a fellowship. Where do I find such a fellowship? It depends. All I know is that you can find it here in Warrior Week in the most rawest format. Some people may have found it otherwise. I have no other information about other places. I'm sure it exists. As far as I know, as far as I've seen with my own eyes, and as far as there's 50,000 plus witnesses behind this, specifically more than 4,000 people that came into my proximity in training with myself and Coach Max and the team in the past 8 years, this is the place where you create that fellowship. Warrior Week is the environment where you purge from the lies, when you adopt a new way and there's a pivoting point that comes into your life to continuously operate on the sustainability of telling the truth.
Oh man, you said something. Another thing that's fucked up too is that you purge it, and yet you have to find the fellowship to constantly hold you accountable to staying in the truth. And when you're around the truth, the more comes out, and yet you move away from it and immediately you go back out to have to acquire it. And if you don't stay inside that fellowship, then you find yourself, okay, hey, I'm constantly going to need a repurge, because you're going to back to telling the truth. And I also think of, like, if somebody were to be, well, do I really need a fellowship? Fuck, man, go through COVID again. Like when everybody.
No, the answer is fuck yes, you need it. It's not me telling you or Coach Max telling you. God tells you it's not good for men to be alone. Yeah. Fuck off.
You saw how unhealthy we got in the last 2 years with how people got unhealthy.
And people were unhealthy before fucking COVID. COVID just was a highlighter about unhealthy. so it like literally it's time to surrender.
Yes.
And if you don't have, if you cannot surrender to such a command, when God says it's not good for men to be alone, well, bro, it's you and your ego. And that ego over time will be broken. Maybe it wasn't broken in this call. Maybe we took a crack at it, but he'll know exactly the time frame for you where you will surrender to that. I knew that. I found out that myself. You did that. Every single man that has come into this process has found that. And life definitely has a plan to break that fucking ego.
Coach, let's address this last topic here in regards to, we had a man that starts to tell the truth, and then he thinks about it and he starts to move forward, and then the ego creeps back in. His inability to consistently hold himself accountable creeps back in, and then he finds himself back to the slave of lying or hiding, and then just lets it go back out. You know, what do you see inside of a man like that? And I know how.
We already answered it. We already answered it. He doesn't believe in fellowship, period.
He doesn't believe in
fellowship, or he believed in fellowship and something else informed his mind that something else is better than fellowship, or that he believes that fellowship can be found elsewhere, and he goes and pursues that only to find out that what was given to him as a gift in a time and a location that God chose, he rejected that gift. And we all have done that. We all have rejected God's gift at many intersections of time and location. And it's a matter of the right intersection and the right time as he wants us. So if he continues to reject this, it's because he's in God's class 101. Like, God is keeping him in his class. And if he stays humble, he will find it. But most men will allow their ego to write a story about this served me. Now I got to go find the next thing. And it's the constant search for the shiny object. And that by itself is a disease.
Yeah, that's going to be our next topic in regards to serving and how hard it is for a man to serve, the pain of serving, because a man will take, but a man doesn't necessarily serve.
True.
That's for sure our next topic. So here in the essence of truth and an action item that I'm going to require us to have today is investigate, or what I like to say, go on the hunt for your lies that you're telling. Just one lie that you're telling yourself about your body, one lie that you're telling yourself about your relationship, one lie that you're telling yourself about your business, and one lie you're telling yourself about your connection to God. Go and investigate that. Go on the hunt and truly find that. It's gonna require work. It's not gonna be like Coach likes to say, your first answer that you find, go ahead and fucking cross that out and find a better answer. And in regards to closing, I just want you all to understand something, that we've all gone through this process. We all work on this telling the truth daily. And this is going to require work. If this is something that resonated with you and has read as like you feel this is calling towards somebody else, send them this link, share this with somebody if you know that and feel that in your hearts of heart. Also, too, if you're wondering, what does a fellowship look like? What does it mean to be inside of a fellowship? Go ahead and check us out on warriorweek.com. And then if you find yourself looking at, hey, I want to hear stories of other men that have gone through this, look at warriorweeknow.com. We have hundreds of testimonials, more of a podcast with Coach, and they really break it down on kind of where they went through. And then the last thing here, if you are interested in coming to Warrior Week, you're going to have to find an application. You're going to have to find somebody that has gone through these circles and through this before, this moment in time, because again, it's a crossroad that draws you to you. It's not just something that's nice to have. It is something that is a calling. It's a calling. So, Coach, always thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And final words here is, yeah, man, what's in your shoes?
What's in your shoes? Amen.
Quit on your wife, quit on your kids, quit on your desires. It's okay to be okay. Manually putting the fucking blindfold on yourself. Tonight, you're gonna find out what power is.